afternoon from Los Angeles and happy Wednesday. It's Alyssa Corum here with Justin Nielsen, and we have a look at the stock market today. And on today's show, we're going to be taking a look at a breakout from a stock in the aerospace and defense sector, plus a look at how utilities are faring, and we're still seeing a cybersecurity leading, not even really acting like there's a sell-off at all.
What correction? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we'll get into that, the standout from the cybersecurity group. But first, let's take a look at the major indexes. We did finish down across the board, with the NASDAQ closing down almost 0.5%, while the S&P 500 closed down about 0.25%. The Dow lost about 0.4%. So still very much in correction mode, even though we had a decent gain Tuesday.
Right. You know, the thing is, it was a mild loss. You know, this wasn't bad, especially when you compare it to some of the action we've seen lately. There was really no news. Fed came out, no surprise with the minutes that they came out with. So this was basically marking time. So when you've got a correction, there's a couple things that can happen. It's not always just about the pain of the stocks going down and the market index is going down. Sometimes it's the time where just nothing much is happening. And so right now we're kind of marking time below the 50-day moving average, below the 8,000 level on the NASDAQ. And you got to ask yourself, okay, is this the kind of market that I want to put money into right now when there's not much reward possible at this point?
Exactly. Well, there are some bright spots, so we'll just have to analyze and see perhaps whether it is worth it jumping in, but of course putting that risk in perspective, the fact that we are still in a correction here.
Yeah, still in a correction phase.
All right, well, let's take a look at Hexcel. Ticker there is HXL, which gained about 3.7% today, breaking out of a long consolidation here in the aerospace and defense sector, and volume was heavy in this move today.
Yeah, so just to make sure people understand, this is still Investors Business Daily. They might have gotten a little confused when we started off with aerospace, defense, and utilities.
Right.
But you know, we have to look at where the strength is. That's what we do. So if you look at the aerospace defense industry, Hexcel was a big gainer today. It led the sector, and that was because they raised their financial guidance, and so that kind of spurred some buying there. Volume came in pretty heavy, about 50% above its average volume, so that was considerable. Volume might be tricky coming in here because the summer months are about to hit us, and that can be very, hard to determine. Okay, what was this heavy volume, or was it just, was it light volume because of summer? What was going on?
Right.
So Hexcel did have the volume today, and they're in the aerospace defense industry. They're kind of the structural maker of the carbon fibers, composites, things like that, and you don't normally expect too much out of the aerospace defense stocks. They can certainly perform, though.
Although before Boeing's recent woes, that was looking like a really strong stock.
Yeah, exactly. And so, again, you just have to look at where the strength is, and this is a stock that's looking strong. It appeared on Stocks on the Move and our new highs list.
And it did close in the upper half of its trading range for the day. That's also positive here. But given the context of the market environment, that makes something like buying breakouts hard versus just monitoring your existing holdings.
Yeah. Now, if you needed to diversify out of tech a little bit, maybe this is what you're looking at, something that kind of gets you out of tech if you feel the need to be invested. But in a lot of cases, it's just a matter of, okay, if you want to reduce your exposure to tech, then just put it in cash, and that's okay.
Right, very true, good point. And let's take a look at the utility sector by looking at the Spider Utilities ETF, XLU, because this also underscores the type of market environment that we're in, seeing utilities leading and breaking out. What does that mean to you? Those are not the typical growth stocks that we look at.
Exactly. So again, it's just knowing where the strength is. And David Chung made a good point in the big picture yesterday. He was talking about the new highs list. Now, on our website, investors.com, you can get to the new highs list by going under the stock list and new highs, or you can go to our IBD data tables and look exactly what's making new highs. Yesterday, utilities had 11. It was the biggest sector making new highs. So what does that tell you about the market? Well, okay, people are feeling a little bit less excited about putting money into growth names. They want more stability. They want dividends. You're also seeing a lot of REITs pop up in the IBD 50.
Yeah.
That just kind of tells you, the IBD 50 is just pulling where the strength is. And when you start seeing those type of names come in, it just is letting you know, okay, this is where the market sentiment is. It can be a good sentiment indicator.
Right, very true. Well, let's cap things off by taking a look at CyberArk Software, which has been a great leader this year, continuing to climb after breaking out in January, extending its gains on earnings, and another move off of the 50-day line recently, and hitting another new high today with a gain of more than 2%.
Yeah, so for CyberArk Software, it's like what correction? They are also on the new highs list. And what's interesting is there are still a number of growth names that are on that new highs list. MasterCard, we talked about that a week or two ago. Shopify, it's not like it's all utilities. There's some growth names that are still on there, and CyberArk is one of them. Now, you mentioned that bounce off the 50. As it was coming close to earnings, and of course when we went into the market and correction phase, this was one of the ones that was really coming down hard to the 50-day moving average, but it got support right along with its earnings report. So if this is something that you've been holding on to since it broke out way back in January, there's nothing wrong with continuing to hold on to this. Just because it's market and correction doesn't mean you have to give up your leaders. You can hold on to your winners and keep those, but you want to get rid of anything that you are not up on, anything that you don't have cushion on, and you want to consider taking profits on some of these things. So,
exactly. And so here, what would you be looking at for your first sell signal, that 10-day line?
Well, the 10-day line is, that's a very short-term, signal. So depending on what type of trader you are, and again, if you have all this cushion from January, you're okay. So you can still use a break of the 50-day moving average line as a sell signal. You see that happen on heavy volume, and that's going to be a more decisive sell signal.
Sure.
So far, once we got to the 50-day moving average line on CyberArk, we just basically got support. Earnings was right around that time, and it came right back.
All right, well, it's still looking strong, so we'll just have to monitor and see where it goes from here, and continue to monitor the health overall of growth stocks and those leading groups.
Right, and this is a leading group. The software security group has been one that a lot of names have been coming out of there that are very strong.
That's right. Okay, everyone, thanks for watching today. We want to let you know that we'll have a new episode of the Investing with IBD podcast dropping tomorrow. We have a new episode every Thursday, so make sure you head to investors.com/podcast for all the details on that. And we also have a webinar coming up for you tomorrow on how to navigate earnings. So make sure you go to investors.com/webinar to save your spot for the webinar at 11:30 a.m. Pacific.
Busy day of content.
It is. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.